Hello everyone, I'm Ashna. I lead the community effort at Whole Truth. So if you all have any ideas and requests on what you'd like to see from this space, I'm the person you should trouble, or maybe Shavani as well. Excited to be doing this event with all of you all. We have a lot of folks, a bunch of folks joining us online as well, since Aruna's a well-known name in the community and a lot of people wanted to make sure they can make it for the session even if they're not in Bombay. So welcome to everyone there as well. I don't think Aruna needs an introduction, and I know that she's going to do one. So I will leave that to her. But I'm really excited for this session. It came from an article that Aruna had written on her blog. Something we'll also explore in the TBT newsletter, which is the Truth Be Told newsletter that we do at Whole Truth. A topic I'm particularly really excited about. We'll dive more into it, but really glad to have all of you all here, especially like Vignesh representing the men out here. So happy to have a bunch of folks. We will just do a quick kind of session that Aruna will take us through. We also have some FAQs, time for FAQs after, and then we just all the getting to know folks and banter can happen post the session. So yeah, without further ado, Aruna,
Thank you. Thanks, Ashna. Very kind of you. Thank you. So I think Whole Truth is so precious to me for many, many reasons. One, like Ashna and I have known each other for a few years. I write for the TBT blog. I've always loved the brand and everything that they stand for. So when I got the chance to do this session, as someone who's been a community member and has come for other community events as well in the past, I thought it was opportune that I get to talk about something so dear to me. So some of you we've met earlier, some of you we're meeting for the very first time. I actually want to share something very interesting I realized a couple of days ago, which is the first time, or the first couple of times I did sessions like these, right? I used to talk about my own ill health as a younger girl with a chip on my shoulder. You know, I'm the victim, I've gone through so much, this, that. And over the years, having spoken to so many women, I realized I'm not really special. Unfortunately, so many of us have those stories where, you know, we've gone through difficult times when it comes to our health, not having the answers, not being heard. And I thought, like, I wanted to do this the restart of these sessions that I used to host till a couple of years earlier, and now starting again differently, where I'll share what I've learned, what I know, and also what I don't know. What I don't know is something that I've added now that I wouldn't do earlier, because I think, like, when it comes to science, it's also very important for us to say that, one, we don't know everything. Two, science also doesn't have all the answers, because otherwise it becomes quite patronizing, and I don't want that to be, whether it's about our session or generally when it comes to female health. We're already patronized so much in all areas of our life. I don't want to be doing this. So quick background. I mean, not the best introduction to life, but grew up really sick as a kid. Had terrible teenage years because of my PCOS, which I later found out. Come from a medical family, so I'm fourth generation actually in a family of doctors, naturopaths, Ayurveds, all of that. My mom's grandfather used to teach in Lahore Medical College back in the day, so I come from that. To a point where in my teenage years I decided I'm never going to get into medicine. You guys know shit. You're not able to help me at all. I went to law. As luck would have it, I'm back to, in some way or the other, talking about biology, physiology, everything. The reason why I'm sharing this is because, very interestingly, I do a lot of work in terms of biological age, biohacking, all of that. Last year, my bio age was 26 when I was about 29. I think that's very interesting. Chronological age and biological age are two different things. We'll talk about it in detail, but what this really means is that cellularly, my body was younger than the age on the calendar, which means that I just have maybe 3 more years of vitality as per just this, right? Now that's an interesting concept in longevity. Happy to dive deep. Not the main focus of the workshop today, but just want to highlight. I ran a 10K for my birthday last year. Do a lot of running for someone who's who grew up knowing or hearing from doctors all the time that I should cut short on my ambition, not put so much pressure on my body, I really, really enjoy pushing the boundaries as much as possible. So my birthday party was a marathon run back in the day. So I think that I don't have to talk about this because most of you already know, but I've done insane work. I would like to say that myself. I think 18-year-old Aruna would be very proud of where she is today because of everything I've been able to do, and I think I give 100% credit to being in good health, of sound mind. I don't think you're able, at least for me, I don't think we're able to achieve the goals that we have or the dreams that we have if we're not healthy enough to pursue them. It's one thing to say that we'll hustle, we'll push through the stress, we'll push through the difficult times, but if your body just doesn't give you the support, you can't do that. Which is why I'm so conscious and I want to continue to put an effort in being healthy and ensuring people around me are healthy. I think we can do so much more in our lives if we are not struggling with 5 days a month of poor health or being on bed, or we don't have to run across doctors' offices to get good health. Which is why it's so important for me to do workshops like these, because it builds my resolve as well. So quickly, the agenda for today that we'll do, we'll talk about the science, we'll talk about some stories, some systems, and we'll have a Q&A. Very, very simple structure here. I'll take you through what science says about the female body, what are some stories that we've been telling ourselves but maybe we don't know, and then I'll help you build some systems. There's a paper in front of you as well that we'll go through. There are some baseline belief systems I hold, and that will define the way I'm doing this, not just this workshop, but the kind of beliefs I have about health, the kind of structures I build. So one is, I think if I'm healthy, that's just one less thing for me to worry about. I want to be in the kind of health where I don't have to think about what happens when I'm going through menopause or what happens in 2 weeks when I'm getting my period. It's just that stress of worrying about my health and my body just gets eliminated, and that frees up a lot of my bandwidth to do things I'm passionate about. I'm not trying to be better. I don't want to be better. मैं बहुत अच्छी हूँ जैसी हूँ. I think I don't think that it is true. There's enough sociological research around the pressures that are put onto women, and how we're constantly forced to think we're not doing enough, whether it's in terms of our health, our family, our work, our skin, our hair. There's always another mountain to climb for us, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to be running a 42K. I don't want to be doing high rocks. What I want to do is be in good health, and the performative markers of health don't matter to me anymore. I think another baseline is that I want to trust myself over anyone else. By that I mean that one big challenge in healthcare in general is when your beliefs or your experiences are not taken into account or are dismissed as you being overreactive or you not paying attention or you being dramatic. I don't think that is the case. We're all self-aware and all of us want the best for ourselves. We need to find doctors, experts, mentors who truly believe us instead of patronizing us and telling us that there is a certain way to think and we don't adhere to that. I truly feel being fertile is being healthy for the female body. You can choose not to have kids. I'm not getting into the whole conversation on having kids or not, but the female body has been biologically designed for reproduction. That is what takes humanity forward. Being of good reproductive health means you are in the best potential case for your body. If your reproductive health is lower, evolutionarily in societies in the past, especially now, we have so many comforts around us, but in the past, if there's immense threat to the ecosystem, to the community, reproductive health is usually the first to go off. Biologically also, if your body is under so much stress, your reproductive health will be the first to go off, because at that time the body's job is to keep you safe. It's not to reproduce and look at the next generation or the next folks, right? So I truly believe that fertility is extremely important. I don't know what ages you are in right now, but it does. For me, what's most important is if you can get hold of your fertility, whether you choose to have kids or not, again, separate conversation altogether. But the more fertile you are, the more healthy you're going to be net. I'm okay being 80% right. I don't want to do things that give one. I mean, I'm okay to do things that give 1 or 2% improvement, but they are not the benchmark of whether I'm healthy or not. Whatever gives me 80% results with 20% of the effort works for me. So that's my baseline, and you're free to obviously build yours. So I want to show something to you. How many of you have seen what the reproductive system looks like actually in person? Yeah? Sorry, not in person. I mean, sorry. So this is what the female body currently actually looks like. We just never see this, right? Even when we are studying biology in school or like in other situations, whether at university or otherwise, we just never see what the female body actually looks like. We always see the male body and then alternatives around that. And I really wanted to show this because I think it's beautiful how the body works in general. It is a miracle that we don't have answers for in many ways. But it's just insane how our body works and how it's such a meticulous system that's designed to keep us functioning. So actually, I just forgot we haven't done your introductions. So before I go there, thank you, Shami. Oh, you're not joining us? Shit. Sorry. Would love to quickly get to know what your name is, what your age is, and if you, for the women, if you can give me the name of a movie that relates to your cycle. And for men, tell us like what got you here. I'm very excited. My husband said no, I'm not coming because I have other work and this and that and everything. But still, he didn't make it here. So would love to know what you guys, what got you guys here. So if I have to take a movie name to represent my period cycle, I would call it Luck by Chance. So who wants to go first? Do you want to start?
Sure. Hi, I'm Radhika. I know this girl, that's why I'm here. I don't know if she would have caught me by the neck and sneak up.
I would have.
Yeah. Just curious to know, I mean, till now, obviously, as you said, this is the first time you see a female product or the organ. So just curious to know like how you can actually sync your health with the cycle. Because till now it's just been okay, those 4 days are down, second go the mood swings, that's all we know and that's like, that's all we've been taught. But now thanks to the social media, thanks to people like you, we want to learn more. So yeah, that's
Awesome.
Nice.
Movie name?
Huh? Movie name? Not really thought of it honestly.
Think of it and
Just
tell us.
winging it. If there's a movie named by it, so winging it. So yeah.
Okay. I'm Ashna. I'm 30. I have had. Actually, I'm not going to get into all of that because the only question was the movie, right? I was just about to get into a spiel. I think I don't know, I've been trying to think of the movie and the only things coming to me are like April Diane. Like, when she comes, she's terrible. So, but yeah.
Priti,
Hi guys, I'm Priti. I'm myself a holistic dietitian and she's a dear friend. So here to listen to any. I've just like actually taught this topic in the morning. Students and I've just come here. So it'll be a nice revision for me. I think for me the period is queen because it needs like a lot of pampering, a lot of attention. Just pops up whenever whenever you don't want it to, etc. And yeah, and age-wise, I'm 36.
Hi, I'm Shalvani. I'm 22. Movie name would be. Only thing that came to my mind is Talash. Because I never know what's happening. So, that.
I'm Simran. I'm 29. I'm trying to think of a movie name but all I can have in terms of visuals is I can see this confused teenage drama where you don't know what to expect and then suddenly you have some clarity at some point. That's all I'm able to think of. I haven't watched Sayara, but yeah, I'm thinking of a teenage drama.
So Natasha has just
Yeah,
messaged
that's
from the
right.
chat and her movie name is Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum. Yeah, you want to go next?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Devshi. I'm 23 and I play football and run a lot. So the movie that came to mind was Better Like Beckham. Because I feel like every time it comes, I literally have to bed and just lie down for like a couple of days to recover. And yeah, I'm just here to learn more about how we can sync our cycle with strength training, running, lifting weights, playing football, all of that.
Awesome. You want to go next?
Yeah, hi, I'm Janvi, I'm 26. And I was about the same movie, coming to your young but is it good for girls or something?
Must be. Must be.
Do you want to go next? I mean, not the movie, obviously.
Hey, hi, my name is Vignesh. I'm in the content industry. I'm writing a script, so I just require few information, insights about all this directing, what are the topics that you guys discussing about. It's just a part of my story.
Okay.
I never discussed all about this to everyone. So you guys are giving a brief explanation and a lot of stuff. So somewhere somehow it might help my story.
Sure.
Just write for my script.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Will you credit us?
Maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Hi, I'm Judy. I'm a lawyer. I also come from a long line of lawyers, by the way, and I would be the sixth generation lawyer, but I'm not. The movie that comes to my mind would be About Time, because it's almost always for me like, "Arey, kab aa raha hai? Please come now," because I have so many random up and down cycles. Why I'm here is because, like her, I also play a lot of football, and I notice whenever I've had very long or intense training sessions or anything that requires some aggressive activity, there's always an up and down. So I want to learn more. And also now that I'm around 30, I'm 23, I want to understand how to maybe align things with my cycle, or maybe work on that as well.
Hi, I'm Riya. I'm 22. And if I have to name a movie for my periods, it'd be The Perfect Day. Touchwood, it comes at the right time, everything's good. With this dating phase, I wanted to go into a healthy relationship. So yeah, it's just
Nice.
this. And why I'm here is I love Arna's content, and I think she always has a value to add. So yeah, here I am. Skipping a meeting to it, and then.
Hi, I'm Nishita. I'm 32, and the movie for me would be Sadhguru Maaf because it's just so 2 days before your periods are around, I have major mood swings and like random outbursts in the washroom, and the next thing I know is like, nah, that makes sense. Why I cried so much the previous day.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Jasmine Singh. I'm supposed to come here with my girlfriend, but she ditched me. Make notes and take it over. And can I give a movie? How I feel about the movie?
Yeah, go for it.
I feel sort of a conjuring movie. Never watched that.
So the horror will go down after this probably. So I just have to say.
Not my point.
Yeah, but great that you're here. It speaks volumes about the strength of your relationship. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Tia, I'm 25. I'm here because of her. And the movie I go with is Tamasha because I never know what's going on and it makes me reevaluate my existence. So that's.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm 25. I actually came across your post and just wanted to know a little bit more about everything. So I've always had irregular periods. I never know when it's coming. Whenever it's there, it's very painful, bloody. So if a movie has all these elements, I think that would be like something. I don't know, painful, never know when it's coming. When it's there, it's very, I don't know, hell-like.
Awesome. Ashi, you have to rush. Quickly introduce yourself and tell us a movie name that relates to your period cycle. So I said Luck by Chance, someone said Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, someone said Ek Thi Diane, someone said Queen, someone said Perfect Day. What's yours?
I'll say Jab We Met because it's usually depending on the age that I'm heading towards, I'm very happy nowadays when I get periods. I'm like, it's like a Jab We Met series.
know cycle syncing is the term and everyone uses it, it's super trendy. There's nothing scientific called cycle syncing actually. Sorry to break the bubble about that, but that's actually part of the reason why we're doing this workshop also, right? You'll see in the web where we'll talk about the science, we'll talk about some things that anecdotally make sense and some things that science has just nothing to say about. But unfortunately with social media what happens is anything that's too controversial, anything that's too ownable an idea gets virality very quickly. So cycle syncing, cortisol phase, they are not scientific terms, they're just social media first trends. And I want to break that down. Obviously the idea behind cycle syncing essentially is that our body goes through different hormonal cycles, which is perfectly normal. It should go through it, that's how our body works. But for each phase of the cycle, you need to have certain specific activities that you do that support it. I'm going to take you through some of these. I'll also tell you what I think about all of them given the day and age and lives that we live. Sorry, I think this is so quick science lesson, maybe quick 5 minutes just to set context on what the baseline science is. The females, the menstrual cycle is divided into 4 phases. There's the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, the luteal phase, and the menstrual phase. The menstrual phase is when you're bleeding. So day 0 of the cycle is the day you start to bleed. Around 4 to 5 days or 3 to 4 days depending on the body, your follicular phase starts. This is the phase where your cycle has ended and your estrogen is starting to go up. I'm just making it very simple. There's obviously a lot of science behind it. I'll send you a screenshot of Riti's story from morning where she's put down the science, but I think for context, the idea really is your estrogen starts to go up, your different hormonal levels start to fluctuate, your progesterone is also going slowly. By the time you get to your luteal phase, it gets up. Your ovulatory phase is actually the time when your estrogen is in a healthy body supposed to be the highest. Your ovulatory phase is also the best time for a pregnancy. Not to say that a pregnancy can't happen at other times, but the chances for a pregnancy in your ovulatory phase are the highest. It's your most fertile window. Once the ovulatory phase ends and your body realizes there is no pregnancy happening or there is no implantation happening, the lining of the uterus where that's getting prepared in the first phase of the cycle starts to break down. That breakdown is triggered by some hormones rising like the progesterone and some hormones starting to fall like estrogen. That tells the body that there's no pregnancy happening, you have to break down this lining, and over that phase of the cycle, the menstrual phase starts. With me so far? Yeah? I'm going to just give you a sense of what leads to what, right? So you can start to piece that together. So in the first half of your cycle, your estrogen is rising. Estrogen is the hormone that brings increased energy, in some ways to say vitality in the body. It also influences your hunger regulating hormones. So because of the impact of estrogen on hormones like leptin, you may not feel as hungry. So for those of us who feel really hungry right before our periods are supposed to start, or that we want to just eat up a lot of food in general, and we'll talk about the calorie deficit situation there as well. That's because of hormones like estrogen which suppress your appetite. The idea really is the body is in a good shape right now. We can sustain ourselves, we can use the reserves that we have in our body and continue. Not to say that this is a time that you shouldn't eat at all, that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about how the hormones are functioning. Your FSH which triggers this estrogen production and it stimulates follicle growth. So basically with estrogen rising, FSH gets triggered and that tells the ovary to release an egg. Now with that egg releasing, the whole cycle of getting to the ovulatory phase, starting of lining of the uterus, all of that starts to happen. Again with me so far, this is the only deep science thing that we'll discuss so that it sets stage for all of us, yeah? In the second half of the cycle, progesterone shoots up and suddenly shoots down, and this is obviously in case where a pregnancy does not happen. It helps to thicken and maintain the uterine lining, but when estrogen starts to fall, the uterine lining starts to break down, right? progesterone's decline leads to things like brain fog, fatigue, lack of, and the secondary impact of that in some cases could be that you don't feel motivated, you don't feel as productive, etc. It makes you feel hungrier because it stimulates appetite. The other hormones like we were talking about start to change as well, and this is the time when it stimulates appetite. Now think about it logically, right? The female body is designed for reproduction. So at the time of pregnancy, the body's logic is that I need more resources to sustain a potential child that will come into my body and then bring it up, etc. That's the time when the body needs more resources, which is why you potentially also feel hungrier. This is also a time when you have the least immunity. Because net, if you look at a foreign object like an embryo that has to be implanted, it is a foreign object in the body, right? Immunity being much lower in this time makes it easier for the body to accept the pregnancy. Now what that also means is, like, let's say if you're playing sports, there are higher chances of injury, there are higher chances of falling sicker, so you need to take a lot of care in terms of recovery, etc. Especially when you lead active lives, especially in the second half of your cycle. The first half of your cycle, and if God forbid that happens, but if you're ever sick and you're taking antibiotics, just try and see the difference between the energy you have or the recovery you see if you take antibiotics in the first phase of your cycle and the second phase of your cycle. In the second phase, the body is just expending so much more energy to do the job it has to, because it has another big major job to solve for, and because of that there are multiple changes that you experience. Everyone with me so far, right? I know it's a little complicated, but I want to make it as easy for you to understand the basics at least.
We do have a question. Palak, who's joined us online, said that she didn't understand when you said cycle syncing is not scientific and rather a social media trend.
Yeah.
She wants a elaboration on this. Would you explain more on this?
Sure. So the term cycle syncing is not accepted by doctors, is what I mean. There are certain scientific recommendations, and we'll also talk about some grandma's anecdotes that we've received over the centuries on what to do in each phase of the cycle. But there's very limited randomized controlled trials or meta-analysis that justify many of these things that we see in cycle syncing. So for example, one thing that I constantly keep seeing on my social media at least is, for men, the way to do date nights during each phase of the cycle. There's no science behind it. It's juxtaposition on estrogen ka ye ho raha hai, wo ho raha hai, ye ho raha hai. So therefore there are certain date nights you can plan accordingly, or there's something or the other happening in terms of your productivity, mood, etc. A lot of it is just personal. ऐसा कोई scientific logic या कोई meta analysis नहीं है उस science का. So everyone with me so far, right? Now, just the basics. The easiest way to determine if you're having a good cycle over the whole month or not is to check your period health, right? In the US, the American Gynecological Society also calls this the fifth biomarker of health. So with your resting heart rate, your HRV, your basal sleep temperature, your sleep quality, period health for women is considered the fifth biomarker that tells you whether you're healthy or not. Anytime something messes up with your body, it will start to show up in your periods as well. So just, again, this is just factual data that I'm sharing with you. The color, that's healthy colors, red, pink, brown, orange, in different phases. So like day 1, day 2, etc. By the end of it, you usually get to brown in case of good health. Orange is not the best situation to be in, so you want to at least pay attention to it. Red, pink, brown usually work depending on the phase, right? Amount 20 to 90 millimeters. I know it seems like we bleed a lot, but we actually don't. We bleed about 1 to 5 tablespoons through the course of our cycle on average. The texture, cloths in general, see if it's painful, then you should get it checked. I know that a lot of this is normalized, कि सबको होता है, मुझे शुरू से हो रहा है, but just because it's normally happened like that or it's very common doesn't mean it's healthy for you. So please, in those cases, get things checked. Nothing to say कि कोई problem है, but it's better to know in advance than not, right? You want to check for your smell. If it smells disgusting, it's not super healthy. You want to again go to a gynecologist and get it checked. Flow should be regular to you. It's not that there's my flow and your flow could be different. As long as it's regular, that's the ideal that we're looking at. It's perfectly normal to have the frequency between 21 to 35 days. So even if it's at a 30, 33, 34, 35 days, it's perfectly normal. If it's every 3 to 3.5 weeks, that's also normal. It should just be consistent in your meals, right? 3 to 7 days is ideal. In some cases, some people have only 2.5 days, but they've always had it like that. They have no other problems at all. Their AMH is good, which we'll talk about in a bit. So it works. Fair? Everyone with me so far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have one question.
Yeah.
Is there a way to measure the amount of blood? Like, are there any markers?
Menstrual cups.
Menstrual cups, got it.
That's the easiest way. I want to talk about this one thing before we get into other things, and I think this is very, very important. Constant conversation in biohacking, men talk about it a lot, especially with the rise of CGMs. This is a conversation that's started to happen a lot more. Hormones like insulin, etc., are also hormones that impact our body, right? It's not just estrogen, cortisol. They're not individual to the female body. Just want to get your quick sense on which one of these do you think is healthier, and why?
I think the one without rice.
There is
There is
rice.
rice.
Oh yeah, I think it's not that visible that side. So yeah, the one at the right side.
Yeah, because there's some greens there.
Correct. What happens is with our body, and like, by the way, this is something I'm just studying so much around food psychology, the way our country functions, the way we eat food at a systemic level. It's not like an individual हम लोगों की अलग से गलती है, but the way we see our foods across the country, we are a carb-rich nation. Our breakfasts are carb heavy, our favorite meals are carb heavy, our chole bhatures and pav bhajis and pohas and idli sambar, all of these are just carb heavy foods. We're not a protein rich nation at all. Now, fair for a lot of people to say कि बड़े लोग शुरू से यही खाते थे, this is what people have. Everyone's okay with Hindi and English mixed, I think. कि बड़े लोग शुरू से यही खाते थे, you're going against our culture, tradition, all of that. But the way they used to live their lives and the way we lead our lives is starkly different. We don't have as much physical activity. We sit a lot more. We're not rushing to being agriculturally dependent as much as maybe our families were 30, 40 years ago. We've, in one generation straight up, moved to being an agriculturally rich nation to suddenly a service-oriented nation by and large, but our food habits haven't kept up. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because India is the diabetes capital of the world. Obesity is one of the biggest horsemen of aging. Obesity is obviously also linked to cardiovascular health, etc. With women, we see in general in India that we don't actually look after the way we eat our food. We'll always look at how people around us are eating and then accommodating to that. I want that to change starting today for all of you. Very, very simple things that you have to follow, and I'll talk to you about why I'm saying this. This is this is a CGM report from my CGM. Ankush has also written about this in the past actually. But if let's say you're having just a dal, chawal and salad, by default you'll think, oh, ghar ka khana hai, acha bana hai, bahut badhiya. It leads to a glucose spike, right? But pair it properly, where you're having a salad, you're having adequate protein, you're having carbs, which is in lesser quantity than what the first plate showed you was, and you're having a 15-minute walk after lunch to get the body moving. The simple difference in the same meal is that your glucose is more stable here. Now this is the easiest trick you can start to follow. It needs you to change nothing, just the order of your food and how much of what you're eating. So today, I don't want to talk about ye khana chahiye, ye nahi khana chahiye, because it's super bio-individual, it's extremely personal. It also depends a lot on your context, your concerns, your family backgrounds, the way your families work at home. But one simple switch each one of us can make is how we eat our food. Fair? Everyone with me on that?
Yeah.
So I'm just quickly sharing this. We'll share this slide. We'll share these slides also. There is no right quantity of food by default. It always is in the context that you are in, the age that you are in, what goals you are trying to solve for. But the order you want to look at is have fiber, protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats that are part of this. In general, if you look at the West, and I'm not saying you should pick everything up from the West, but we have to learn the science at least. Starting the meal with fiber and protein instead of carbs helps us balance the glucose better, right? It's the same food, it's again just the order of food. Now obviously in a lot of our cases we need roti chawal or roti sabzi, sabzi chawal, whatever. See what you can start with. This is not to say there's only one way to do this and you have to get anal about it. The idea is for you to know, have education and build that kind of awareness. Now the reason I'm also bringing this up is because obesity, insulin, these are markers that as women we don't realize. In India we also have this big issue of being skinny fat, where so many of us are skinny. We're not fat, but internally our metabolism is not strong, or our metabolic health does have these challenges. What that means is during pregnancy it can lead to challenges, during menopause it will lead to challenges, and losing weight for women in India is far harder than in other countries. Now think about it for a second, right? The way weight also is divided in the body depends on the geography that you're coming in from. So Scandinavian countries have women packing up fat across their body because the idea of the body is that we have to keep them insulated throughout. Asian women pack it up on the paunch first of all, then the hips, and then other places, right? Now it's very hard to lose weight because you're skinny, but you just have a paunch, and then how do you get out of it? I'm not sharing this in the sense of fat shaming at all. I'm sharing this in the sense of that visceral fat leads to other problems in the future, like cardiovascular health issues, metabolic health issues, which impact women differently, and we don't have adequate science to say what works and what doesn't work. And it's better for us to take preventative action today, especially because doing these things doesn't mean that we have to skip out on anything. Right? We're not missing out on anything if you think about it logically also. All we're doing is thinking of how we do what we're already doing. Right? Fair? Everyone with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, biomarkers that I recommend everyone to test. Very, very easy to test. Most of us have a smartwatch or a smart ring. Any of these work. As long as you get a baseline, and I'm not even saying you have to get so data obsessed that you constantly wear a smartwatch and are constantly looking at data. But as long as you use it for 2-3 months, get a sense of how your body is working, it's great. Resting heart rate, it goes up in the second half of the cycle by default because our body is just processing a lot more resources at that stage. So it's perfectly normal for women, one, in general, to have higher resting heart rate than men do, and second, for it to go up in the second half of the cycle. A higher resting heart rate also means that our sleep quality can potentially suffer if we don't take action then and there. I'm sharing this because the more data you have about your own body, the better you're able to support it. So if your resting heart rate is going to go up, you need to do more things that either bring it down or keep it controlled, or even if it is going up, don't impact your body negatively. For a lot of us who don't have good heart health, and we may not realize it at younger ages, an decrease in resting heart rate can also mean as women that in the second half of the cycle we don't feel as productive, we feel a lot more anxious, a lot more mood swings, etc. Obviously multiple things happening, it's not like just one, there's no one clear-cut answer. If it was that easy, we would have had medicines and solutions already. But these are things that can potentially help us. So knowing this, tracking this always helps. HRV, because resting heart rate is increasing, obviously your HRV will fall. HRV is your heart rate variability. Both go hand in hand together. So you don't have to check for this separately. As long as you know one, the other one gets tested accordingly. Your basal body temperature is a sign that ovulation has occurred. So you must have seen that in a lot of cases. I don't know how many of you have either tried for a kid or heard for people trying for a baby. But one technique to do is to keep testing your body temperature to see when it's going up, so that you can time the act accordingly, right? So again, really helps you understand, at least if in cases where your periods are irregular. Doing this for a few months will help you understand how your cycle is working. Because even if you're not able to look at the entire cycle or mark it to the day, as long as you're able to mark what your ovulation date is, a pre and post at least starts to become possible. And then there's sleep quality. I feel so passionately about this. I think in general there's this I grew up, looking at women around me waking up earlier than their partners, doing all the work, not getting enough sleep, this, that, everything. And then obviously, not having adequate sleep leads to other health issues also. We recover, in general, human beings recover while we are sleeping. That's when our body is cleaning out the toxins, making sure we rest well, all of that. And by default, women need more sleep than men. There is enough science to say that. So if like, let's say men need 6 to 7 hours on average, women need 7 to 8 hours in any case. And there was this very interesting deal that a friend of mine, Dr. Manan Vora, shared recently. And my friend Sanjana from Delhi also shared recently, where there was this whole fiasco when the study came out and everyone was saying, oh, maybe it's because women overthink this, that, everything. And her counter was, maybe we think the adequate amount and men are underthinking. I thought that was really funny. No offense to the men here, obviously, but just very interesting that women need more sleep, we need more rest, especially in the second half of our cycle. So if you see those differences coming up in certain different parts of your cycle, it's perfectly fine to give yourself that rest. As soon as you start testing for these things, there's going to be a lot more awareness that starts to build out for you anyway. So you'll be able to market all with data. The reason why I'm not giving you prescriptions on ye karo, ye mat karo is because I shouldn't have to. You have data, you have all the resources, and we can find out the right things to do for your body given what your body is telling us. It's always giving us feedback. We just have to pay attention. So let's say looking at your period health is one biomarker. These are the other 4 biomarkers that the American Society also recommends women to follow in general, which at the baseline, without you having to go to a doctor, without anything having to be wrong, you can learn so much about your body just using this. Fair?
Yeah. I don't know if my question fits in here, but there's always this myth around not working out when you're on your
Yeah.
periods. Is that something that is recommended or is just a myth that stays?
So I'll just get to it. We're actually going to discuss that. So I'll look at sleep. We've spoken about sleep. Dr. Viti will just speak about in terms of movement. Now there are a couple of things that are happening, and let me tell you how it's looking like globally as well. Olympics, Manchester United women's football team, Chelsea women's football team, teams like these have already mandated cycle synced training. There's an app called Wild.ai. French data scientist and athlete who built this out to help women train better, especially women who are athletic and in that space train much better. In India, there's a company called Simply Sport Organization backed by Rain Matter, again one of the investors of the whole truth. They're doing a lot of work in the female health space for female athletes across India around all of these conversations. There are 2 or 3 things. One, there is enough science to say that immunity is much lower in the second half of the luteal phase and the menstrual phase, so chances of injury are higher, which means you need to have more recovery, especially DMARD. There is also enough science to say that changes in your hormonal cycle have an impact on your performance physically, right? None of us are athletes of that order, by the way. Like even if we're playing regularly, we're not athletes of that order. In those cases, it's best to see what your body is telling you, how anecdotally that is working, because each one of our bodies is different. Wild.ai is a great app that you can start to use. You can plug in your data and then they can start to give you specific data. There is nothing right or wrong about moving or not moving. You have to see what works for you. In some cases, if your periods are just so difficult for you to manage, you're not going to be able to move regardless of how much science says movement is going to relieve your cramps, right? In my case, I don't face any problem with strength training or yoga or Pilates through the month, but running becomes very hard for me because my resting heart rate obviously is much higher than usual, and that is difficult for me to train with. So in cases of runs also, in my case, I don't schedule a run during my late luteal and menstrual phase, but I have a lot of runner friends who run well, who will do proper Nike Ultra, Nike After Dark on the first day of their periods and not have a problem. A lot of it is also very personal. There is science, but the science, and you should use the science, but apply the science to your body and your concerns also. If science says that movement is great, what kind of movement also matters. Then maybe it's not the time for you to push your body too much, right? In our case, but an athlete can't afford to do that. That's one. Two, given high rocks, right? Like I don't know how many of you know about high rocks. Any of you interested in doing it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to discourage you at all. Just caveat there. Lots of my friends doing. I'll tell you the good
What's
trainers.
that?
Sorry.
I've heard this word for the first time.
Good. Don't hear about it right now also. In my case, I don't want to do high rocks because I know my body gets
High rocks.
troubled.
It's hybrid rocks.
Hybrid. Yeah, it's a mixed format CrossFit event which is
training.
gamified gymming essentially. And it's a great format, right? I think it's wonderful in terms of the community they can build, the kind of effort you can put it. In my case, I know such things put a lot of stress on my body. So I don't want to do it in this age of being in a reproductively rich age. I'm sure I can do it later when if I want to have kids, I'm done with them and that's all out of the picture. Because I know it will impact my fertility, right? A lot of these are also questions we have to ask ourselves in terms of what is our goal with life. If, let's say, you're sure you don't want to have kids, and we'll talk in a bit about egg freezing and everything also, but you're 100% sure there are no kids happening and you want to be 100% athletic or in that lifestyle, you'll do what needs to be done, right? You'll have some trade-offs and then you'll supplement it with, let's say, recovery protocols, with, let's say, cold therapy, massages, the kind of supplements you take accordingly. So it's always a trade-off. There's no, when I started this workshop itself, I said this, I don't want to be patronizing because I think we start to think there's one right way for all of us to behave, but it's not like that at all. It's what the kind of life we live, what our goals are, and accordingly manage everything around that. So these supplements, these recovery protocols, they're there to help us. They're not there to make us feel so overwhelmed with everything that we're not doing that we start to give up on our health then.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
What happens with me is before and after, okay, and of course while I start to, there's a lot of suffocation that I feel. I start to, and if I'm even walking and if I walk for some time, it will be like, okay, I'm panting literally. So once my periods are over also, the pain, the cramps which I had earlier, it starts to happen while it's over. Okay, why does that happen?
So we'll talk in detail in the Q&A section, but just on the suffocation, etc., very, very common. I encourage all of you to start looking at your resting heart rate and HRV data. Those two biomarkers will tell you so much about how the rest of your month is going that you will be surprised that you missed out on something as simple as this. We'll talk about this in detail, yeah? Sorry, I just want to talk about productivity also. Now, there are certain things on productivity, right? There is, again, I find social media very fascinating where there are certain books also written about this, that you should schedule investor meetings in the first half of your cycle or, close to your ovulatory phase because that's when you're most energetic, most vital, most impressive, etc. Or, schedule deep work in the second half of your cycle because then you can put in more effort, you can, sit in one place and benefit from the different hormonal cycles. Whose works like this? No one can work like that. It's just not feasible. I don't know what world any of these are living in. If any of you are founders or CXOs or, even freelancers, our days don't look the same at all. सुबह क्या हो रहा है, दोपहर को क्या हो गया, शाम को किसी को नहीं पता होता आप कितना ही plan कर रहे हो. It's obviously nice to have some structure around things, but there's only so much you can plan and you're not working independently even if you're an individual contributor. None of those things have any science to it, by the way. What does have potential scientific backing is, like I said, in the second half of your cycle, your progesterone shoots up and starts to fall down. There are chances of you experiencing brain fog, lower energy in your late luteal and menstrual phase. There are supplements to help with that. If you notice, you go through it, right? Like in my case, I had the same energy through it. But brain fog also not a concern in my case. But there are other challenges that I face, right? So we'll do this exercise today before we get into Q&As, where I want you to start thinking about the kind of experiences you have through the month, and then we'll talk about specifically what all can be done now. So there is no meta-analysis on women's productivity goes down in the second half of the cycle. Is that nothing like that? It is more of a conjecture because of the way our hormones work. Movement we've discussed, sleep we've discussed. Perfect. So there is enough scientific analysis to say this is all scientifically backed. Now these are things when it comes to cycle syncing. The idea really is for each phase of the cycle, you identifying how your body works and then doing whatever is needed to support it without overwhelming yourself also, by the way. There is no clarity on this, by the way. There is some anecdotal research on certain things that are happening. There is no randomized controlled trial that has enough validity, that's not sponsored by, let's say, a skincare company, to say that any of these things need cycle syncing in the parlance that we're understanding. So nutrition. Obviously there's enough to say that certain foods help with certain hormones, but it's not like you're checking your hormones every day and accordingly eating your food. So even if theoretically there's enough, logically it's not possible for any of us to implement that. What I will recommend in the case of nutrition, and there are bio-individual concerns, so I'm not again here talking about what to eat or how to eat. There are 2 or 3 things. One, the whole idea of a calorie deficit, even if people are losing weight, it's ideal to have 200 to 300 additional calories in the second half of your cycle to cover up for the increased hunger pangs that you have, right? Because your body needs that kind of resources and that support. So that is one thing that you can do easily without getting into the guilt eating and the cheat treats and feeling bad about yourself for hogging on. Just plan for it accordingly. Second, personally, I find again, like I said, the 80% results and 20% effort. 3 proper meals a day in my case with 80 to 90 grams of protein through the day, every single day, adequate fiber is what helps me through the month. Then I don't have to do other things there. Now the way to decide your protein is, one, look at your activity level. 0.7 to 0.8 grams per body weight is the RDA, which is the minimum needed for a healthy life. I personally aim for 1.2 to 1.5 because I want to also be healthier, athletic, stronger, all of that. So accordingly decide what you need to. Protein is all are extremely important, right? Protein, carbs, fiber, fats, all of these are extremely important. We villainize some of these and we ritualize some of the other, but all in the right quantities for your body is important. You want to check your weight, you want to check your ideal height, etc. BMI, by the way, is not accepted in India per se because it doesn't work for Asian body type. It's very common, but it's better to check for your waist circumference with your height, etc. And also, if possible, get a DEXA scan to see how, in terms of just data-driven approach, how your fat shows up in your body. DEXA scans needed one time, so it's not like you need to do it regularly or it's a monthly or a yearly effort. Either do it once so you understand how it works, if possible, and this genetic testing is something I recommend to people if they really want to get into good health. It is expensive, you need to do it again only once, but it tells you how your body works. If you understand how your body and how genetically your body is attuned to, a lot of these you can start to also implement towards your goals, right? With sex, again, very common to say that, with rising estrogen, ovulatory phase, you'll be hornier, you'll want to have more sex, luteal phase, you wouldn't want to have as much sex. Again, very bio-individual, there's no one right way. Unbelievable that even when it comes to having sex, we've been given a template कि ऐसे करना चाहिए और ऐसे नहीं करना चाहिए. ऐसे, like, it just makes zero sense to me. See what you like. Obviously, there are things like in your ovulatory phase, lubrication is a lot more. In your menstrual phase, lubrication is less. So, but you have tools to solve that. The point of that is not that lubrication come here and you feel like having sex, so you shouldn't, because there's some study or some Instagram reel that said that menstrual phase people usually don't want to have sex. It doesn't work like that. There's no science to it either. Skincare is very interesting because there's a lot of conversation globally happening around this with a change in our heart rate, our HRV, sleep. It does impact the skin in terms of hydration, etc. also. You might find yourself feeling a lot more sweaty, especially for those who have very sharp heart rate differences. There is no scientific study on this, but anecdotally there's enough to say that there might be some meat to this concern. Again, see what works for you. Yeah?
There is one question. Nicola wants to know if you have any references for places to get a DEXA scan and that's the test that gives you a full body composition, right?
Yeah. It will happen in every city. I don't know which city
She stays in Mumbai. She's
A
based in
wellness company in Bandra has it, and I'm sure a lot of hospitals also have it, by the way.
All the suburban thyrocare.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's
in some cases it will be part of your annual insurance health checkup also.
Got it.
So you can get that, your VO2 max, your bloods, all of that is usually part of a full annual blood checkup for most insurance providers also. There is, like I said, nothing scientific about any of this. This work schedules according to your menstrual cycle. There's no cycle syncing that can happen even in the way we are understanding it to be. There is no logic to it. This whole date nights thing that's going on, and especially I think in the West this is so common, but it makes zero sense. That's not how the body works. Also, all of these, like, I have huge issues with this whole idea of cortisol balancing and all these other trends. No hormone works in isolation. Cortisol is not the problem. It's the bloody reason that we wake up every single day. If cortisol wouldn't spike and go down through the day, we wouldn't be able to wake up also. Each hormone is related to the other. So cortisol's impact on melatonin is the reason why we're able to wake up in the morning and go to sleep in the night, etc. But none of them work in isolation of the other. Sure, like in some cases, if you tell me that there's the body's default is towards adrenal stress, which is any kind of stress on the adrenal system in the body leads to certain challenges. Yes, I get it. But there are multiple hormones in the adrenal system that are impacted by the multiple organs in the adrenal system. There's no one hormone like that. So just to give sense of this, so in PCOS there are 4 kinds of PCOS. One is insulin resistance related, one is adrenal related, which is the one I have. So I've never had an issue of weight gain, weight loss, hair, hirsutism, none of that. My problem has always been every time my body is under immense stress, follicles start to build in my body, which is a very different kind of PCOS. And 80% of PCOS across the country is the insulin resistant sorts. So when I was growing up, constant feedback from doctors was lose weight, khana kam khao, ye mat karo, wo mat karo. And in my case it was, but I have none of these issues. I am underweight. My problem is I'm not able to gain weight. My problem is I don't have energy for any of this. It's making zero sense. It took years of identifying the different types of PCOS also to see which one worked for me. So having that baseline understanding felt completely important. If you tell me there's one hormone that you're going to target, it's not going to work like that. By the way, even when we go for strength training for weight loss, right? If we say we're going to target just this one body part and lose weight or lose fat from here, it doesn't work like that. Our body loses as it has to. We just have to show up and do the work.
Nikhila also wants to know, is there science to seed cycling?
I mean, so here's how I'll say this, right? Nutritional deficiencies exist and seed cycling can help with solving for multiple nutritional deficiencies. There's no doubt about that. Is there something to say that a certain way of seed, like again, seed cycling as a term is very social media first. You need to cover for the nutritional deficiencies in your body, and seeds are one way to do it. Is there enough meta-analysis to say that this is a medical procedure that doctors will recommend? No. If it works for you, great. Also, by the way, like a lot of our I've grown up at least in the north with our grandmas telling us, don't eat pickles in the second half of your cycle, or at least during when you're bleeding. Don't eat cold food, curd, all of these, because they are more fermented. Now, the logic essentially is that your body is going through so many changes. Your body is more heated up in the second half of your cycle. So you avoid fermented food, you avoid cold food. If it works, great. The times have also changed now, by the way. We have refrigerators, which 50 years ago was not the norm. So a lot of this anecdotal wisdom that's coming from our grandmas and our elders also has to be contextualized. I'm fully for traditional wisdom, by the way, just for clarity, but I think it also needs a lot of contextualization in today's day and age. This whole idea of women were not supposed to enter temples or kitchens when they are bleeding. Now, context, and I'll tell you how I know this and how I understand this. I keep the Kartik fast for 40 days in the so Kartik is one of the months in the Hindu calendar, and there's an entire fast you keep for 30-40 days, right? Like a chaliya. And there's a Kartik part that you do every single day in the morning. Karwa Chauth comes on the Chaturthi of that month. Now, technically, if you will see Karwa Chauth pe, people are saying we'll fast, do this, do that. Kartik के book में जो लिखा हुआ है, it's that on that day women are not supposed to touch iron or cook food. That is the day for rest and prayers. Okay, logical. My understanding of that is now we have all of these utensils and different ways of doing things, but at that time iron meant you're not washing clothes, you're not cooking, you're not doing anything, you're just spending that day to rest. At least in the north, that is also the time when all the festivities, all the wedding season starts, everything. So what my grandparents have told me was that would be one day where the woman's given time to rest so that the next 2 months she's got a lot of work to do. Karwa Chauth was also not a fast any of us have heard about in our ancestors. It's all very new to come in, right? Now, it's very interesting that there are certain religious practices that allow for days of rest, that allow for days of intermittent fasting, for example, on Ekadashis, etc., where they may not be able to explain the science the way we explain our science, but if you look at the logic, and I'll keep religion aside from it, the logic still checks out that every 15 days have a day of intermittent fast, which is what a lot of longevity doctors also recommend today. Now, if it becomes religious and you're not able to follow it or you don't want to follow it, perfectly fine. It's not like just that day has to be done. But imagine being in a family where there are different days everyone's following intermittent fast. It wouldn't make sense. So it would make sense to keep one day to do that. Is how I understand it. Obviously, there's no theory behind it. There's no science to it. This is just my understanding of all this. I think coming back to seed cycling again, if it solves for nutritional deficiencies, great. There are multiple ways to solve for nutritional deficiencies. See what works for you. Like, you need to also have the time and the mind space to say that I'm in certain phase of my cycle, so I'm going to eat XYZ, and in another phase eat XYZ. I work 10-12 hours a day and I have zero time to do that. So personally, my preference for myself is always have the right kind of supplements, have the right kind of workouts, have the right kind of food planned for the month. In some cases, I'll take an L-theanine extra in the second half of my cycle to help with productivity, etc. But then that's about it. So everything else becomes easier for me to manage. A lot of it is also about what you can and cannot manage, by the way. I'm repeating this again and again because a lot of these things become about you should do X, Y, Z additional to everything else you're doing. I don't want to add burden to you. I don't want to add more work on your already really full plates. There is enough that as women we get to do कि हमें ये भी करना है, वो भी करना है, and then when it comes to our health, if we're told that we're not doing enough again and there are 10 more things that we have to do, and it's impossible to build habits when you're changing the habit every week, right? It takes a certain number of days to build a habit for you to do something regularly. Now, if you're not able to do that for an entire month, 40 days, 60 days, it's very hard for you yourself to build that habit. Again, like I'm saying this again and again because my personal preference is to build long-term systems that I can keep doing without having to second guess myself or keep going back to my systems and fixing them every week on week. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, there's a better long-term strategy also that you can implement. There was this question. I don't think you can see it easily, but it's fine. There was this. A couple of you had asked this question on the group also, so I wanted to take you through this in terms of what I recommend you guys focus on for each decade. I'm just giving a caveat. The way I'm recommending this is that if I'm saying something that you do in the 30s, that's the latest that you can do it in. If you can do it in your 20s, it's even better, right? See, so what I'm telling you in your 30s or 40s is कि 40s से late मत करना है इस conversation को, पहले कर लो तो और भी अच्छा है, right? So in your 20s, great time for fertility because you're very young, your body hasn't gone through as much wear and tear, so you'll have potentially most of your regular cycles and your lowest risk of chromosomal issues. So if you are able to get genetic testing done and see how it works for your ancestors and see what all you can do in terms of long-term genetic health, this is a great time to start that work in. There is this Tumblr-esque quote, which I'll explain the science also behind it, that every 7 years your body is completely new, right? Now cells have wear and tear, our dead cells care of, there are new cells being produced every day. It's completely true that, let's say, and longevity doctors talk about this, right? You might have a genetic tendency for X, Y, or Z disease, but if you're able to spend 7 to 8 years working on your health and improving that entire phase, your genetics will not matter as much as your lifestyle will. The challenge is that we grow up a certain way, we continue to follow the same practices or maybe worse practices for that genetic disposition, and then we think, oh, it's genetic, तो हमारे साथ तो ये ऐसा होगा ही. But that's not actually scientifically true. There is enough research to say that you can change the genetic output. So even if your body has a disposition for something, it's not going to show up or it's not going to impact your life. My recommendation again, 20s especially, a lot of us do very late nights, and we hustle and we enjoy the whole idea of we don't sleep enough, and as if it's a badge of honor, but prioritizing sleep, your circadian alignment, and your cycle syncing for energy is something that you can very easily follow. You don't have other responsibilities, so this is the least you can do for your body. I think a high quality multivitamin, omega-3, vitamin D, magnesium is great. When I say multivitamin, I do have a caveat. Don't take anything off the shelf. Take it only if there's a specific problem, if there's a goal you're trying to solve for. Don't take supplements unnecessarily unless there's a goal that you have to work towards. So the way to think about this is, you have certain health goals. To achieve them, you need certain support. Some of it comes from nutrition, some of it comes from supplements, some of it comes from systems, and work backwards instead of being supplement first. You want to get your baseline hormonal panel, get your AMH, which tells you your egg quantity. FSH, LH, TSH are done. I mean, you won't do your blood test every month, but even if you get it done once every 6 months, it'll give you a sense of where things are. AMH starts, by default, it's the quantity of eggs you have, not the quality. As you age, every month that you bleed, your AMH will start to fall at different speeds. In some cases, and it's absolutely true today, that we see a lot more cases of infertility because of AMH following much faster in early 20s, late 20s also. Great idea to get your test done for all age groups, by the way. Any of you who are planning to have a pregnancy in the coming years, please get your AMH tested today. The reason why I'm saying that is because if, let's say, whatever age group you're in and there are still 5, 6, 8 years to a potential pregnancy, you can get egg freezing done. And that is the biggest opportunity women have to make a choice today in terms of how they want to live their life. Perfectly safe to have children in late 40s also. There are enough cases of geriatric pregnancies where people have had kids after 45, early 50s also in some cases, but obviously needs a lot more focus on health for their 30s and 40s to be in a place where their body can manage a pregnancy. It is a choice that we have, and it is a choice that I think we should exercise. And I'm assuming all of us here have shown up here because we're very ambitious in our careers, we wanted to do better, and we want our body to not be an afterthought. Perfectly fine to get your egg freezing done at any age, by the way. You could be in your 30s and get your egg freezing also done. If you're married, you can also get embryo freezing done, which is with the egg is fertilized with your partner's sperm. There's some, and then it's frozen. So this process starts off same, but the end of it is an IVF. If you choose to have it, it's possible for you to never have to use the frozen eggs or embryos as well. But imagine being in your imagining 35, 36, wanting a kid and realizing you don't have eggs left or you don't have enough to even try. I think that makes no sense. We have the opportunity. Science is so advanced. IVF is one of the safest technologies in the world today when it comes to medical care. One of the most popular as well, with the highest rates of success. So we will hear of IVF not working, but if you look at it statistically, it has the highest rates of success in all medical technologies across the world today. Yeah, I think like this, your 20s are a great age to build fertility fitness. So you want to avoid over dieting, you would want to avoid chronic stress, you would want to avoid endocrine disruptors. And what I really mean by that is just support your body, befriend your body. right? We grow up not learning how to be friends with our body. This is a great time to build that because there are not other responsibilities. So you can build that kind of baseline relationship and fitness. Everyone with me so far?
Yes.
I'm happy to skip 40s or 50s, but you let me know if you want me to go through it. In your 30s, I think my recommendation is there will be a gradual decline in ovarian reserve. That's just how the body works. It has to decline. As soon as your eggs are over, you will get to a place of menopause anyway. You want to focus on blood sugar balance, which is what we discussed, right? The CGM approach we discussed for that. Strength training is great. The sooner you start strength training, the better it is. Women lose muscle faster. It's harder for us to build muscle in any case. By default, human beings lose muscle as they start to age. The more muscle you have at a younger age and the more muscle you continue to have at a younger age, the stronger your later years are going to be. Pack up on as much muscle as possible, as early as possible. I know cardio is great, all of these are great, and all of them have different benefits as well. Strength training has its own place. So building up muscle is critical for everything that we do. If you want to be healthy, if in let's say our 50s, in our 60s, our 70s, if we want to not be frail, not have hip issues, fall down and have hip issues. We've seen so many of our parents and grandparents also go through this, right? Simple trick, put on muscle as soon as you can and keep on sustaining it. Again, like I said, egg freezing for pregnancy. CoQ10 is CoQ10 is a great supplement to use if you want to work on your egg quality. But again, very specific, speak to a doctor or a nutrition coach to do it. And these are conversations you can have. I'm sharing more names of these supplements so that you can at least start reading up about them and have informed conversations. Antioxidants work great. Like I said, AMH for ovarian reserve, thyroid function, and advanced fertility panel if you're planning. The sooner you do it, the better it is. Any question? You had a question?
Yeah. Just if you could touch it, strength training and calisthenics, like what's a better way to form muscle? Which one do you use?
Both are different approaches actually. Do what you like, start with what you like. In general, my recommendation is to do a couple of months with a personal trainer so you understand what muscles to activate, what the right form should be, etc. So you don't injure yourself. Calisthenics is a little more advanced where you're working on your body weight. So it depends on what you want to start with also. Consistency is more important than the type. So you could do 3 sessions of 40 minutes each every week, and that's great, and much better than doing 1 session of 1 hour every week. Consistency is a lot more important to build that as a habit. You want to train your muscles, you want to train your mind, you want to train yourself to live that life.
And 3 sessions per week is fine, like that's a heavy number. It has to be like at least 5.
It's also bio-individual, so you have to speak to your personal trainer about it. But if, like I look at it logically, let's say 3 sessions of strength training, 1 day of cardio, ideally you hit your steps every day and live an active life, so you're hitting your steps. 1 week, and when I say strength training, by the way, in longevity we call this zone 2 training. So let's say 3 days of zone 2 training, 1 to 2 days of zone 5 training, a recovery day is seated. That's your 7 days of the week already.
I just want to add to that because I just started calisthenics in addition to strength training, and I did it at a calisthenics gym, and they did a whole test, and they essentially check if you when you're doing a calisthenics circuit, because when you're starting out you're not doing sole body weight stuff, you're not there yet. So you have to build your endurance, and while you're doing that, if you're above zone 3 for most of the time, then maybe it's your body is not ready for it. So with strength training, you have to get to a place where you are bringing your heart rate down, even when you're pushing like your failure sets, and that's when you kind of get, especially female bodies, get ready for calisthenics to push yourself, because there is so much pushing that you are actually sometimes, like recovery for me was much harder. So I kind of synced it up. That helped.
I think my question was also similar lines, like the recovery side of it takes so much time, and the next day you don't want to show up.
You have to start. All roads lead to RHR. Check your resting heart rate. All your exercise. So zone 2 is basically where you're doing about 30 or 40% of heart effort, correct? And zone 5 is where you're doing 70 to 80% of heart effort. Zone 5 is the way to build in your, like, that is the max you are pumping up your heart, but you can't do that regularly, right? Zone 2, zone 3 could also show you, like, you could also do anecdotal tests on climb 4 stairs and see how quickly and without getting breathless, you were able to do that. So simpler things like that are also just signals of how well your heart is working. Strength training, a lot of people do that just for the muscle end, which is important. You're pushing your body to exercise. Check your RHR and how much of zone 2 training are you able to do in that time. If you're in zone 1 only, that means you can push yourself a little more to get to zone 2, but it needs you to train your body to get there. And I didn't get into technicalities because it does get confusing, but the simple logic is zone 2, zone 5 training. Zone 2 for long-term health, zone 5 to push your heart health and make it stronger.
Just to add on zone 5, simple way to calculate
Yeah.
is 220 minus your age. If you're hitting that, that's the max usually, right? So if you're hitting there, means you are reaching at zone 5. That may not be sustainable for a long time.
Yeah.
That's like if you say sprinting a 100 meters race, right? You might hit that for a second and come back.
Yeah.
And the resting heart rate, the magic figure, they say is 48. If you are hitting 48, and best way to measure it when you get up in the morning, right? So if you had a quiet and nice sleep, and you get up in the morning, that's the best time to measure your resting heart rate. And 48 is the magic number. If you're somewhere around 48, 49, 50, means you're doing fast.
Just highlighting that, thank you so much for sharing that, sir. So when you do marathon training, any good coach will ask you to run between zone 2 and zone 3 only, by the way. Because it's physically not possible for the human body to run 3 hours and do a marathon in zone 5. A lot of marathon or running training is simply on being as slow as possible, breathing as deeply as possible. So that's one thing. The second thing is when you look at RHR, daily numbers don't matter as much as a baseline does. So look at a 14-day, 30-day baseline, nothing. Non-vegetarians, women have higher resting heart rate than their counterparts. So a vegetarian will always have a lower resting heart rate than a non-vegetarian does. Men have a lower resting heart rate than a woman does. Like I said, in the different phases of your cycle, day to day your resting heart rate also changes. Pregnancy, your resting heart rate will look very, very different. These are all things for you to know so that you don't get stressed out about the number and more start to look at your baseline. So if let's say your baseline is 70, your goal has to be that I have to hit 65 over the next 3 months because that becomes my default and then you start to go down accordingly. Everyone with me?
Palak, who's joined us online, has a question. What is the impact of fasting on the menstrual cycle?
So, great question, by the way. I love intermittent fasts. A lot of us mistake intermittent fast for thinking that it's only supposed to be 16-8, that you fast for 16 hours and eat for 8 hours. The idea of an intermittent fast is that you spend certain number of hours giving your digestive system the opportunity to rest and not work, and the rest of the time that you spend in eating. Now, can go deeper into the science of ketosis and everything that intermittent fasts unlock, but I think that in the reproductive age, or especially when you're planning to have a kid, and like in the case of my body that gets very stressed easily and that negatively impacts my health, doing a 12-12 fast also works very well for me. I make sure I do a 12-12 fast across the cycle. It's easier for me, and check what works in your case, to do 14-10 in the first half of your cycle versus the second. So for a lot of my clients also who have healthier systems, we'll maybe do in the first half of a cycle a 14-10 fast, and in the second half of a cycle a 12-12 fast only. The idea is to again give that digestive break. Intermittent fasts by default help your body to burn off, like do ketosis. Again, can get into the science, but the unlocking of ketosis is where the opportunity lies for intermittent fasts to benefit you. Reproductive age, not the best idea to do it because at that time your body needs the fuel. Your body doesn't have to burn off the fuel unnecessarily. Logic still being that you're not constantly munching. So there are a lot of people who will go to right before they get to sleep, they'll be eating something. As soon as they wake up, they'll also eat something. Your body is not getting any rest at all.
There's one more question.
Yeah.
Khushi, who's joined us online, asked, what are the actionable steps to reach optimal resting heart rate?
Strength training. Like I said, the thrice a week strength, zone 2, maybe twice a week, zone 5. Sleep quality is very important in the sense, and both are interrelated, but some things that really work well are having blackout curtains, ensuring you sleep a set number of hours, ensuring you sleep at consistent times and waking up with the sun. As long as you're being consistent, that's what matters more to me than saying कि 5 बजे ही उठना है. What matters to me is, are you having your 7-8 hours of sleep regularly or not? Another thing that works very well is if you keep some gap between your dinner and your sleep time, so that there's enough, the digestive bit of work is done and then your body can get into proper rest, so that you don't spend as much time in bed thinking about or counting sheep. That's another thing. Some supplements potentially help in combination of everything else you do. So L-theanine, which helps you manage brain fog and your stress better. And because we're talking about stress, other things that lead to stress, right? Let's say you know there's someone who's not good for you and your heart health, and your data is telling you. You need to either fix them or fix them, right? I think, just kidding, but like those things, the kind of food you eat has a lot to do. If you're constantly eating food that doesn't energize you, it will lead to higher resting heart rate. Your resting heart rate, by the way, is not calculated during the day. It's the lowest that your heart rate gets when you're sleeping, when you're in your REM sleep. So you can't calculate. You need a data-driven tool or a tracker to calculate it. But those are different ways. I can go on and on, but the simplest thing to do is eat nutritious food and eat properly. Follow your sleep hygiene. It's really boring stuff, honestly. Be really healthy. Do zone 2, zone 5 workouts. It's not trendy. There's nothing like innovative there. It is really the boring steps that will lead to all of this. There are the 30s and the 40s, but 40s and the 50s, but I think we can skip it. Happy to do it.
Is that the menopause and then?
Yeah. My philosophy is to keep it simple, silly. So again, like I said, good question, Khushi. We're getting there only. Nutrition, exercise, energy, currency, sleep, hygiene. 80% of the work in any longevity protocol that you follow is literally this. It's the same habit that over and over and over again, over months and years, that will show you the results. Everything else will give you 1% improvement, 3% improvement, 2% improvement. But anything supplemental is a supplement. It's not the baseline. It can only help if your baselines are solid. I genuinely don't like that I'm saying this to you, because it's also nice to be innovative, to have an ownable idea, to give you a light bulb experience. But the light bulb experience really is that the 80% of results come from the really boring things that we can't Instagram, that we can't show, we can't package in a nice way. It's just the same habit over and over again that we don't even realize becomes part of our default. I think we've spoken about this a bit, but like I'm just sharing some hacks that work for me. So I use zone 2 in the evening and zone 5 in the morning. Different people work differently, but in my case, my sleep is much better if I do zone 2 in the evening. Zone 5 in the evening does not work for me at all. So I cannot do running, swimming, anything hectic, anything that increases my heart rate to a zone 5 level won't work. So my husband knows not to fight with me in the evening or in the night. We have to schedule our fights in the morning. Caffeine management and timing. My case, I have a very slow metabolism when it comes to caffeine. Some of you might have a fast metabolism. It's dependent on a gene type. I try not having caffeine after 2 p.m. at all, so that I can give my body at least 10 hours through the day to metabolize that coffee. So see what works for you. I really like collagen. There is enough meta-analysis to say that it doesn't have the kind of results that we assume it will. The meta-analysis that say it's great, everyone should have it, are also funded by collagen companies, so we can keep them aside for a bit. Anecdotally, it works very well for me. If you are a vegetarian, even more important for you to start looking at your protein, B12 and collagen sources. Multiple supplements there, see what works for you. I personally prefer everything warmer room temperature, so no ice for me, no warm water for me, no cold water for me, no nothing iced for me that way. So through the month, there's already so much support that my body is getting in terms of being warm and looked after, that my periods are so much easier for me to manage, and I don't have the sweet cravings or the cold cravings at all. I love drinking, like I love drinking. I am full party animal person, but I only have clean alcohol. So tequila with water non-stop, no cocktails for me. Not saying this in the sense that you should all start drinking, but it is a fact of life. Most of us enjoy it, most of us like a good night out. It's better to have information on what we can do that can support us versus not. So a couple of years ago, I actually did a full CGM test over 2 months to see what kind of alcohols work best for me. Cocktails, obviously, because of all the sugar syrups and the soda and this and that, just don't work. Others, either I don't like or they're too heavy for me. Tequila works best. For me, again, maybe we cut this out of this YouTube video that we're recording. The supplements I take are targeted to my goals, plus my fiber intake, plus my protein powders as and when needed. I'm a non-vegetarian, so I don't particularly need to use protein powder every single day. It's days when we have to go to a temple or there's some day that our family has to follow and we have to be religious whether we like it or not. Is when I'll have protein powders for myself to make my life easier. That's really the idea for all of these. Again, I'm highlighting this because there's this whole thing of performance of supplementation also, where we're Instagramming the supplements we take, this and that, but the approach to that should be different. You have certain health goals, certain like I said earlier, certain parts of your nutrition or the food intake that you have can help you with it. Whatever you're struggling to meet, supplements can help you with that. So just for example, if someone's goal is to have high protein, easier said than done. If you're a vegetarian, it will be very hard for you to do that. Protein powders come in and help. You increase your protein amount so much, you're not able to have enough fiber, because that's the next thing that goes and gets confusing. Easier way to do that is have a fiber supplement. If you're not able to, if you're traveling a lot, all of these things really help in those cases. So you want to be very mindful about how you consume them also. I'm personally not fond of snacking or packaged food in general, because I have 3 full meals a day. In some cases, for some of you, it might work better to have smaller 6 meals through the day. See what works, see what is a whole meal, see what's helping you hit your macros for the day. I track period dates religiously. Flow is a free tracker that you get. If you're using Ultrahuman, you can connect Clue with Ultrahuman and all your resting heart rate data, your period health data, everything will get incorporated. Aura is not in India right now, but if you're someone in the US, they can bring it for you. Whoop does really well, Apple Health does really well. Even your basic noise or Oat will give you decent data. It won't be the best data in those cases because they're not meant for a health first function, but an Ultrahuman or a Whoop are my top picks for strain data, for all of this kind of biomarker data.
We do have one question.
Yeah.
How does collagen help?
Okay, so collagen is supplemented because our body has collagen naturally. If I have to explain it very simply, the material that joins two bones together is made of ingredients like collagen. It exists in the body. The challenge is that it starts to go lesser and lesser over the years because our cells don't build up as fast anymore. The reason why collagen is essential in this case is as you keep supplementing, your body has enough to keep your joints, your muscles healthier and connected and tight.
Can I add to that?
What?
You already said.
What?
I'm saying, can I add to that?
Yeah, go on.
So collagen, in our bone, the major portion is collagen. Your skin is collagen. The hydration that your skin gets is collagen again.
Yeah.
And the gut lining is again collagen. So if collagen is low, the gut is not going to be very strong enough to protect itself from any undigested food entering into the blood.
Yeah.
So if that that's weaker, the immune system can flare up. So collagen is basically everywhere in the body, like you said, muscles. So your nerves, your muscle contraction, the heart movement, everything is collagen.
Yeah. So there are 3 types, right? Type 1, type 2, type 3. Type 1 and type 2 are a lot more popular, and the common conversation is, oh, it's great for skin, it helps you looking better, but you need type 3 as well, because that's where the longevity sciences of collagen comes in there. The studies that I was talking about, there's not enough research to say that collagen helps on the skin health bit. It's a byproduct of everything else it does. But as a supplement, if let's say you're having, how many of you are non-vegetarians and know of payaka soup? So insane quality of collagen, right? So if you're having foods like that regularly, it still continues to help. Most of us don't have that kind of food, so we need supplementation in that case. I think collagen is one of the most important supplements, I think, from a longevity POV that we can very easily consume. And I'm saying this like very easily consume is the qualification I'm keeping here. Yeah.
Do you know of any good protein powder supplements that we can consume?
Because I think so. I have to
Because the thing is, I keep seeing all this. I don't know how true that is, but which is odd and ironic that I've read that protein powders can also lead to different kinds of hair loss.
Sure.
Which is weird because protein is also needed for hair growth.
Sure.
So something that, like, we're not repping this right now, but
Yeah.
anything that you can suggest that I can take for people like me who are.
For sure. So I'll just answer that question. In the meantime, like we're obviously in the Q&A section, I just want you guys to spend 10 minutes going through this sheet that we've given you. I think like just digest all the information that we've shared with you today, and as you start to spend some minutes with yourself, reflecting on your health, reflecting on your goals, concerns, I think you might have better questions to ask also, which should be more helpful, I think. So to your question, the good thing and the bad thing about the internet is no matter what you search for, you will get an answer. That confirms it. You are the best. Like literally, that's what the internet is going to continue to tell you. If you ask the internet to tell you reasons that protein powder is great, it will. If you ask it to tell you reasons why protein powder is not good, it also will. So just sharing that as a caveat in general when it comes to science. Protein powders consumption without adequate other macronutrients that enable its digestion and absorption in the body can lead to other concerns like gut issues. Now lactose intolerance is becoming quite common, and a lot of people are not able to digest protein powders in general, right? All of those things are true. You're absolutely right, our hair is made of protein. You also want to check in that study what are the other causes for it. It can't be by isolation that just protein powder led to it. It's just not possible. It's possible कि fiber intake enough नहीं होगा, hydration नहीं किया, या meals replace कर लिए protein powder से. Now that's going to mean your micronutrients are not enough. And a lot of people do this, right? When they start having protein, they'll say, oh, we'll skip breakfast and we'll just have a protein powder and we're done with the day. It won't work like that. It's supposed to be a supplement. It's not supposed to be your main meal.
Also, if you could, I know you stick to 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
But if you could just highlight a little on that, because again, thanks to social media, there's a lot of noise around pre-menopause.
Yeah,
menopause.
sure.
It's getting like, it gets very scary.
Yeah.
So just what are the best ways to go about it?
Sure. So 40s is usually, like you said, your perimenopause may begin, may not begin also, it depends body to body. There are higher chances of miscarriage at this age if you don't provide adequate support for it. There are also higher chances of having twins, this, that, everything, depending on the body as well, right? So goods and bad both there. Intermittent fasting is a lot more important starting now, so that you can train your body to build that kind of resilience. So inflammatory diet, stress management, all of these. If you know you're nearing menopause sooner, you want to also start looking at your calcium intake. The reason why I'm saying this is, as menopause happens and the changes with our estrogen, there are higher chances of osteoporosis or bone health issues in female bodies in our 60s. The time to start to pay attention to them is in our 40s itself, which is why the muscle building, the strength training, all of that become important. The right kind of calcium supplementation becomes important in those cases. in your 50s, there are still enough and more examples of successful pregnancies happening in early 50s also, by the way. Because even if you're in perimenopause, it doesn't mean your periods have ended, right? It's just that you're getting closer to it. You still might have eggs. Your body is still functioning the way it's supposed to. It's just ending that whole phase of the body or phase of life. So spontaneous pregnancy possible. What else is it? Yeah, so you could start to focus on longevity a lot more. Also, great time to start doing that, right? Because once once you hit menopause, your body starts becoming like a man's in terms of hormonal health. At least because there's a lot more stability. You follow only the circadian rhythm. The infradian rhythm is not followed anymore. So a lot more stability, easier for you to build your habits and start looking at it from a longevity POV. Again, supplementation becomes very specific to the goals, your genetic history also. But net, the idea will be to support your body with the right kind of nutrition, the right kind of food. Supplements again help. I will again go back to kissing, exercise, nutrition, energy currency, and your sleep. If you're able to get this right, everything else becomes so much easier, and you may not even have to worry about them, to be honest.
Palak has a question.
Yeah.
She experiences feet pain when she's near her periods. Is that commonly experienced? What are your thoughts on it?
Feet pain.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of this, but again, like I'm highlighting one very important thing. Just because someone else has not heard of it doesn't mean it's not normal to have it. Speak to a doctor and see what the results are. It shouldn't matter. Like even if one of us is experiencing something and it's our default in terms of our menstrual cycle, it needs verification and needs checking. We shouldn't dismiss our concerns by looking at how many other people are experiencing this or not.
First of all, thanks, because I think as men we are highly undereducated on the subject. So whatever I heard, thanks. So my question is, we run a company and we organize extreme sports events.
Okay.
All right. For example, an event where you swim in the ocean for 10 kilometers. Okay. So 40 to 50% of athletes are women, right?
Yeah.
So two questions. One, a lot of these athletes, they come to me and let's say, look, the date is already decided, right? That's the date of the event.
Yeah.
The what if that women on that day is menstruating? Then what can she do? And what do these top athletes they do?
Yeah.
Because you can't decide the date of your final match, right? As per your law. So, and second question is, as race organizer, people who manage the entire show, how can we make it more conducive, more helpful?
So I think you bring up a very valid point, and this is something Olympic athletes, etc., continue to face as huge challenges where you can't decide when you're going to bleed. Two, everyone bleeds on different days. So it's हर रोज कोई ना कोई होगा जिसका होगा. So that's absolutely true. A couple of things you can do is allow for recovery options as soon as possible. I mean, not as soon as possible, but as much more as possible. Not only at the event, but train your athletes also to unlock higher recovery for themselves through the week. We don't put in enough time in recovery in general as athletes. You look at any of the top athletes across the world, they have a psychologist, they have a nutritionist, they have a masseur, they have a physiotherapist. A lot of recovery is baked into their training program. And the way we look at training program as sort of like pseudo athletes, at least in my case, is that we will only look at till race day, kya karna hai. Uske baad kya karna hai, we will not pay attention to it. But that's the most important part that allows us to sustain, right? Now, recovery is important. Sodium intake on race day is going to be important. The right kind of nutrition on that day and the previous day is important. So, like in marathon running, there's a carb loading that happens. There's weaning off of that carbs that have to happen. You have to keep certain time between race time and the meals that you had. So, again, these are the things that matter. You can't change the dates. And for athletes also, it is what it is. Now, we will bleed. We know this. So, we have to, it's our job also to, work out our training program like that. So my my marathon trainers are based out of Delhi. Also have a branch in Bombay. Our menstrual cycle is built into our training programs. So we start with that as the default and then work our way around it. Instead of thinking, okay, we'll manage it when it comes or we'll see what happens there. We work out our training program accordingly then.
But what about the race day? I mean,
No,
what
race day also. We've
Yeah.
done races on, like we've been menstruating on race days also, and then you plan for it, right, accordingly. In some cases, obviously, it's harder if cycles are irregular, if other things happen. But it is what, like, there's not, we won't be able to solve for, let's say, irregular cycles for race days as athletes, right? So that's something we have to look at.
And how
And
can,
I will
as
have- sorry.
organizer, we can make it more conducive?
I mean, provide. I think one great of you to think of it also.
Yeah.
I think net you can do on your end is provide the right resources for these athletes, right? Like if you have the education solve for that education, because काम तो उनको ही करना पड़ेगा. आप कितना ही कर लोगे उसके लिए. And that is really the honest answer there. There's an app called Wild.ai. I think you weren't here when I was talking about it.
Yeah.
Global app. Just write Wild.ai.
Wild.ai.
Yeah, it is made for female athletes. It's built by an athlete and a data scientist. They work very closely with top sporting organizations across the world to help women train better. Guys, feel free to ask whatever questions. We are in the Q&A section anyway, but if you've had enough time, if there are any reflections that you want to share.
I have one question. So you mentioned something about having room temperature or warm stuff throughout
Yeah.
the month, throughout your cycle, right? I just want to understand why is that beneficial?
Sure. I think it keeps my body warmer. Cold water, from what I understand, and Vritti, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it, from what I understand, anything cold changes the, like, sorry, let me rephrase it. Our body internally is really warm, right? That's where the basic body temperature, etc. comes in. Now, if I have anything cold, it has a fluctuation in temperature, and our body has to take time to settle back in, like a interoception needs to happen, equilibrium needs to be built back into the ecosystem of my body when it comes to massive temperature changes. I don't want my body to go through any of that. That's my simple reason for saying this. Equilibrium inside the body also can mean things like internally the body is really heated up and I'm having cold food and then I'm sweating a lot more because that system is, not balanced at all. But I mean, that's my explanation. I don't think it's the best scientific explanation to give, to be honest.
It's actually very bioindividual.
Yeah.
Because if she's going through a certain temperature change, she's having a real body. So whenever you have anything cold, the body is going to bring it back to normal temperature, and it's going to burn a little bit of energy to do that. A very minute amount, but it's going to do that. And secondly, like for her, if warm foods are working better, you have to figure out what works better for you. Like when you have cold, and like she mentioned that immunity changes during your cycles, right? And does your body really tolerate that cold food?
Yeah.
That time for your immunity again. So it's like you have to really have a diary, make a note, and
Food
that's when you
journal it out.
understand the cycle, you understand what suits you, what doesn't suit you.
Yeah, then that makes sense because I've had this pattern where I generally consume, especially in terms of coffee or tea, anything warm. But during my menstruation, I have iced tea a lot, and iced tea just soothes me so
it
much
works for
during
you.
that
Yeah,
period.
if it's making you feel better, it works for you. If anything is healthy and it's not making you feel good, it's not healthy for you. And vice versa.
Yeah. Also, by the way, there's only 4% of funding that goes into female health research across the world.
Yeah.
Most things are not even tested on our bodies. The first time the law that was passed in the US to test for medication, vaccines, etc. on the female body was like 1991. So we barely have any data on the female body by itself. A lot of it is also things that we're all learning as we go.
Yeah.
Which is why, I was so conscious about adding things that science doesn't have answers to, because even if we're thinking about them, even if there's anecdotal wisdom in, let's say, Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, we don't have enough meta-analysis or randomized controlled trials. I think someone had a question on the chat, if I'm not wrong.
There's no question, but I asked them to raise their hand if they want to share or ask.
Yeah.
So like with genetically dependent? Like if my mom got it later, does that mean that I would also get it later, or it's just individual?
So if you follow the same habits, then sure, but it is quite possible to change things around in terms of the quality of your health, even if not the quantity. In terms of like, let's say even if the age is the same, the quality of experience you will have while going through menopause could be very different.
And is it true that the later you have it, the better it is? Or?
I mean, it's bio-individual, it depends on your body.
But that's not like scientific thing, like the later you get it, the more healthier you are because you're still
No,
getting
nothing like
it.
that, exactly. It unlocks other things. So for example, if you have it much sooner and you wanted to have kids but you weren't able to, now that will impact the quality of your life. If you have it much sooner, then you have even lesser time to build on that strength, muscle, calcium intake, etc. and joint health problem. Sorry, your estrogen, because of the changes in estrogen and your hormones becoming more circadian rhythm aligned than infradian rhythm aligned, will start to have an impact on the body type or the quality of body you live in, and the supplementation time you will have will be much lesser or different, if not more. For a lot of people like who have really difficult periods, they'd rather not have their periods and have an early menopause also.
Thank you.
Again, like all of this is very bio-individual, one, and two, there is so much that we don't have answers for in terms of science. Like there's a lot that we know, but there's a lot that we also don't know, and I don't want to pretend like we have clear-cut answers for everything. Next year when we meet, there might be more science that comes out and I'll be able to share different things with you, and we should give ourselves and science the grace to be able to do that.
Actually, in my entire the clients that I've counseled so far, all women, I've kind of noticed that genetically, to some extent, it does have an effect. But then, because we are so exposed to different things than what our mothers were, right? The toxins, the lifestyle, the stress, everything. The perimenopause age, which is pre-menopause, where the body is kind of moving towards menopause, is coming earlier than what our mothers went.
It's also systemic, right? Puberty is happening much sooner. The average age of women or girls experiencing puberty has gone down.
Came to my mind. Is there any cap on the sugar intake that we should have around the cycle?
I mean, see, like I look at CGM, so you manage it with macros accordingly in terms of what spikes you versus not spike you. If I had my way, there would be no sugar. We have 1 kg packet of sugar since the last 2 years. It's not bloody finishing off in our home only. But it depends on the quality of sweetener that you also use, whether you're using jaggery or using stevia or using sugar, refined or brown or whichever one you're using, or using monk fruit, for example. If you're okay with a metallic taste and you use monk fruit, then monk fruit by itself will not have any spike in your glucose. So there are alternatives for all of that. Like if your goal is sugar or your goal is sweeter food, and there are multiple ways to look at that also. Like fruits are sweet, but they don't have sugar in them. They have sugars, which is
Sucrose.
Sucralose is one form of sugars. So what the sugar, either there are two, like a lot of people get confused in this. One is the refined sugar, the white sugar that we look at. One is the sugars in the sense of the way glucose breaks down in the body. That's also called sugars, right? Like there are things like maltitol, which replicate sugar but is actually a sugar alcohol. So there are all of these different scientific terminologies also. If your goal is I want to have sweet food, there are multiple alternatives to it that can be healthier. And again, like if you're let's say you're having some sugar, and the rest of your day is super healthy, it's not going to have an impact. It won't matter.
I don't want to break the flow, but just a little bit to snack on.
Some protein for everyone.
Yeah, it is all freshly made, no package. It is in a pack, but it's just so that you can consume it easily. There are 2 kinds of bars, and if anyone would like a shake, I don't know how many folks are familiar with the TWT kitchen. Started doing fresh shakes, and we'd love to offer that to you. There are a bunch of flavors, but in case anybody wants, just let me know and I'll place it on.
I would love to try it.
Yeah.
Oh,
amazing.
I'll share the link on the group now.
So Shavani will share a link. It's a It's what the employees use, so you'll get the employee discount. Just take a look. You can go over the flavors and stuff, and you will have it here in about 10-15 minutes. Okay?
Sending it on the group right back.
You were asking about protein recommendations. In general, for any kind of health foods or skincare also now, I really like checking unboxedhealth.com. They have a collection of label testing where they tell you how accurate the label is, the toxicology report, everything. For any product like collagen, ice cream, chocolate, chips, this, that, everything, they've got the testing done. I really like using that approach because they'll do 3 or 4 different NABL labs tested, it's all blind tested, and they'll have an algorithm driven number or a marking given to each product.
Yeah.
Which also means that, by the way, in some cases, some brands will have products with really high ranking, and some products will have really low ranking. So you can mix and match that way. In terms of the protein powders that I consume, the Whole Truth is one of them. I also obviously really like Super U fermented yeast protein. I've built it from scratch. Works very well in case of lactose intolerance. I think you guys have also have a vegan pea protein that works very well. I've been trying that for the last 1.5 2 years. Rachna keeps sending it to me for samples.
Nice.
There's one more question.
Yeah.
How did you build systems to support your health as a female around the information influx, busy and competitive lifestyle?
So one, I am very lazy, and I think like accepting that is great. I want to do things that don't take any effort. So everything around my system is in that I'm going to be very lazy and get to my results possible. Two, I am very, I'm not good company to have when it comes to food because I have a problem with everything. I eat only what I want to eat. I won't share too much food, and I'm fine with that. Like everyone else can eat what they want to, and just accepting that and taking up space. First principles helps me a lot because then no one can force food down my throat, right? The third thing is very goals driven in the sense of if my goal is building muscle, then I need these 3 things for it. Then how do we get to it? So instead, like you said, the influx of information gets concerning if you're not clear on your goals. But once you know your goals, you can start seeing what information fits which goal of yours. Does it help you hit your goal better versus not? There's nothing nutrition or science about it. It's just very behavioral in terms of how you approach your systems building across the chart. Like not just with nutrition, but with family, with relationships, with work, everything.
Can I ask one last question?
Yeah.
Is there anything, so when we say that the gut lining also has collagen around it, does spice do something bad to our gut? Are spices bad?
Spices, no. Really spicy food and spices are 2 different things. Actually, I think we should consume a lot more spices. Each spice has a different benefit, etc. And they're important for food, right? Like they're just one type of food that we consume, and food becomes richer with that. Because let's say you have, you have palak without the garlic. Right? It's not going to absorb as well. So a lot of these things come together for improved absorption also. Spices by themselves, not bad. The way you have them, how much you have them, are you mixing all the spices in one meal itself or segregating them across meals? That's important. Two, really spicy food, not spicy food at all. Couple of things, depends on your tolerance. So, and each one of them has a different tolerance. Two, in a lot of cases, the first habits that we build around food in the first 10, 12 years come from our family only, and it's only later that we start to experiment, realize what we like, what we don't like. So a lot of that is also bio-individual in terms of how your gut can tolerate it versus not. And it changes, by the way, like so what you'll experience in your 20s will have a change as you start to grow older also. And you want to give your body the space to understand what those changes look like for you. Like just the last thing, like lactose for example, right? It's quite, like we're seeing so many cases of lactose intolerance. There is anecdotal evidence to it, there's not established science to it, but there's anecdotal evidence to say that especially in the case of women, as we start hitting our late 20s, early 30s, we start to reduce lactose. We start to reduce our tolerance for lactose because our reproductive ages are starting to change, and we don't, our bodies potentially, which means doesn't need as much milk as in the last 50-60 years we started to consume. Babies have much higher lactose tolerance because at that age they need that as a nutritional food option, but in our older ages we may not need as much. So there's anecdotal evidence to it, there's not enough science or meta-analysis around it. But it is a concern, people do face it. Sorry?
Probably the enzyme going down.
Yeah, enzyme going down, but also the question is why is that enzyme going down now? And it goes down differently. Like if you look at an India chart also, Haryana में तो किसी को problem नहीं हो रही है वाली, और Korea so we don't really know because the kind of milk consumption is so different. Yeah,
Like how strong is your gut
absolutely.
to digest a gluten or a lactose?
Absolutely.
Which is difficult to digest.
Yeah.
But I guess that goes back to what you were saying in terms of if you've been consuming milk regularly all your life, then the chances of that showing up, like you not being able to tolerate lactose would be lesser, right?
No, like in my case, if that is true, then I'm the anomaly. I consume milk every single day till 23, 24. Even while I was going to college, like I needed a glass of milk in the morning to start my day. And it's only after, much later, that I started developing problems with it. So now I don't have a lactose allergy. But I just avoid it because I know it will impact my gut negatively given everything else that's going on.
Same. Till 25 and every right now my parents were just shocked. दूध नहीं पीती मतलब कैसे ताकत आएगी? मुझे नहीं सूट करता है, क्यों लगा टेस्ट?
Because I also got one, and I was the person who would have like a gallon of milk every week to myself, like whole milk.
दूध पीना ही नहीं सुबह.
But I assume that because of the change, because I moved, like
Don't
the
forget to
quality
pick
of
up some
milk,
bars for yourself.
and I'm not saying better or less, it's just the type of milk that was available in the States when I came back. वो पिशवी का दूध नहीं चल रहा था, but tetra would work. So I assumed it's maybe like a body shifting.
Quality also matters, yeah.
Yeah.
Same with
But
what
that's crazy.
But still.
Yeah.
I have one question. I don't know if it makes sense, but like when you go out with RHR and the KHR and all that, like I'm curious to know what it is for me, but I don't want to buy any wearables or all. If I look at data flow and want to flip out and want to think it's wrong.
Sure.
So is there like a one-time thing to figure this out that people can do?
So these are not one-time stats at all. They change every single day. They change as per different situations. If you slept well one day, your RHR will be better. If you've not slept well one day, it will change. You want to look at baselines. So, and a baseline gets developed over a 14-day, 30-day, 60 and 90-day period. That's what you compare it towards, and that's how, like, you don't look at RHR improvement in a week's time. You look at next quarter, this is the goal I want to hit, which is why a wearable becomes important.
But intuitively you won't be able to tell.
I mean, you will get a sense of how fast your palpitations get. Like, some interoception does come in, and I think it's very important, like you said, to not depend on wearables to tell us all the answers. We need to practice that interoception as well. Like, I don't wear this year I've not worn any wearable, but I go back to it frequently every 9 months, 10 months to take a 3-month calibration of where my body is and then work accordingly. So even if you're able to do that, that should also potentially help.
I think body awareness also helps in a lot to just be informed what
Yeah.
your body is doing.
You mentioned CGM. How long were you on it for to track?
So
What
each
happens in the
CGM
lab?
lasts for 14 days. You use it for 14 days. I used it the first time I used it. I did a full 3-month experiment, tried multiple different things, but also it was very experiment driven. It wasn't कि randomly कुछ भी खा लिया and कर लिया, because a CGM's job, especially if you're not using it for diabetes management as the main goal, you don't want to wear it that much also, right? So you have to design the experiment first and then do your CGM actually.
Yeah, I'm designing my experiment. I don't know how, like, if I'm going to invest in it, and
Yeah.
it's a little.
So I would recommend the way you can think of it is you design your experiment, you do a 2-week stretch, so you'll understand a lot of things about what kind of food is working, what's not working. You practice practice that for 2 months, and then like in the third month you do it again to test how your body has responded to it and test for new things.
Oh, so you're saying don't wear it for 3 months, wear it for
Yeah.
2 weeks and then
Correct.
observe for 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Because also
more
it's
friendly on my pocket.
yeah. Like CGM also, it won't tell you everything you need to know about ketones, for example. It'll tell you what you need to about some or the other things about glucose, but it's also directional. It's not like it has all the answers possible.
But I think the other way is that if we keep tracking and we realize that let's say RHR is too high,
Yeah.
for some reason, that may be sort of alarm that there's something going on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because we can't totally ignore it.
Absolutely.
So that way it becomes important to track it. At least
Yeah.
you know where do you stand.
Correct.
You're not going beyond the danger mark. Right?
So with cardiovascular health, we say X person passed away overnight,
Yeah,
एकदम
exactly.
ठीक थे ये वो, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. 10 साल पहले की रिपोर्ट्स देखो, you will see APOD में क्या डिफरेंस था, उनकी लिपिड प्रोफाइल में क्या दिख रहा था, क्या नहीं दिख रहा था. These are all things that build up over a period of time. So Peter Attia is one of the longevity gurus of the world, top doctor. He calls cardiovascular health, metabolic health, is this the other one? I forgot one more, but neurodegenerative diseases and cancer. So these are the 4 horsemen of aging. He's saying his idea is if you are able to arrest these and able to practice a proactive approach to managing these 4, because they will happen some way or the other to all of us. So if we are able to practice a proactive approach to managing each of these, given our body types, given our genetic dispositions, given our lifestyles, we have already solved for 90% of the challenges of aging that we will experience. And none of these are that you have to take medicine on day 0. It's get your annual blood tests done and see where your bloods lie, and accordingly what action you need to take.
And I think that's where the gap is. A lot of people, we don't do it.
Also, like we live in a country where अभी रोटी कपड़ा मकान लोगों को नहीं मिल पा रहा. Like we are very very privileged to be sitting here having these conversations and talking about proactive health, when there are people who can't maybe afford next day's medicine also as default in our country. So I think we are a long way away from being more longevity focused that way. But if we can start to practice, then it starts to trickle down over time. We can do what we can do.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There's lack of awareness, right? So there's also a mindset where then we just take the medicine. For example, a lot of diabetics, they want it till in the pre-diabetes stage. They do not. Basically, they have this concept that okay, I'm going to take medicine, glucose that is going to stabilize. I can eat whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that medicine has over the time happening. And that's where this functional nutrition comes in. That's where, like you said, like everything is at the cellular level. Like you have to work on things at the cellular level. So medicine is ultimately just going to be a temporary solution to anything.
Yeah.
What was the 4 horsemen you said? Metabolic age, degenerative diseases, cancer, and
Cardiovascular health.
What are some mandatory tests that should be done on regular and how regular?
I think your annual blood tests every year, VO2 max every single year, to test for your heart health and like how much strength your heart is able to take. DEXA you can get done once, genetic panel you can get done once. These, if you're able to get done, you have already covered maximum of whatever you need to know. And then like if there is some concerns that you find in them, then you go for more detailed testing. But otherwise you can gather maximum information from these insights.
Palak also wants to know if there's any source or material or books that you would recommend.
Lots.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
in fact, even from like Aruna's articles and a bunch of stuff that we've discussed, I think there is a recommended reading list we can put together
Yeah.
and share.
Sounds good. So there are a couple of books. I will add them to the group. So here's the next slide. I also have a few articles on my Substack around a couple of these things. So how do you build your mental gym, as in like a brain health protocol for each phase of the cycle, each goal that you have, on modern productivity, and how to have a more sensible approach to cycle syncing when you're really ambitious and you don't want to give up on that ambition. I find that really, really frustrating. I think by default, right? if a woman wants to be healthy, the first thing she's told is cut back on work. I don't want to fucking cut back on work. I want to work. I want to be really successful. And that needs me to put in the hours, and it needs me to take on the stress, and it needs me to do the difficult things. Only then I'll be successful. But it just doesn't make sense that my health and my ambition are an either or, and that is, I feel like, is my one big question that I want to solve for in this lifetime, if I'm able to. On metabolic health, managing caffeine, on intermittent fasting, why is it harder for women to lose weight and what to do about it, increasing female libido via nutrition, all of that. So again, like, I have a very science, non-science, no idea approach to all of this also. So some of it you will get answers, some of it I'm honestly going to say there are no answers to it. I'll send these plus a lot of books on this topic in the group that we have made.
Just adding on, sorry, so I'm an author, I've written 4 books myself. Since I was a runner, so I made a lot of mistakes in my life. My first book was called 21.1 Running Mistakes. We sold about 10,000 copies of the book. So we talk about mistakes, and there are 21 mistakes and the answers to that. So this upcoming book which I'm writing currently, and that's why when we're talking about VO2 max and heart rate and all these things, they interest me a lot. And this we're releasing during the expo of Tata Mobile Marathon,
Nice.
2026. There we're going to extensively talk about heart health and VO2 max, because a lot of, I think there's lack of understanding there, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to tell you how to, exactly these things which we are discussing, right? What is the right number, how to track it, what is VO2 max, for example. VO2 max is a very important parameter, but a lot of us don't value it, or we don't measure it. I don't know it. It's,
Yeah.
Somebody gave me a very simple example of what is VO2 max. VO2 max is like, so let's see there are 2 cars, right? A Ferrari car, and Ferrari runs at a speed of, 100 kilometers in 3 seconds. And there is one road, say, Wagonar. Wagonar को 100 किलोमीटर पहुंचने में 10 सेकंड लगे. So it's basically the ability of your body to pump in that fuel, so that it can run faster. That is basically VO2 max. तो अभी अगर तुम्हारी गाड़ी Ferrari है, if you go to top athletes in the world, right? So they are like Ferraris, right? Their body will pump. That's why you see them playing for 3,
Ronaldo
4,
is
5
90
hours.
plus.
Yeah.
Ronaldo's VO2 max is 90 plus.
Yeah.
And last I checked mine, it was like some 50 types.
It is not bad.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad, but I'm saying
staying in Mumbai.
this was from Bhopal earlier.
Yeah, so I'll share once it's
Yeah.
out. I'm still planning to name it. I've still not got the name right. So because you ultimately sell book by cover.
Cover.
All the best.
Thank you.
I mean, from all of this, pick what you can easily implement, do that well, and then move on to the next thing. There will always be more things. By the time you've implemented all of this, there'll be more science. And then I'll come and tell you, ये सब भी करना चाहिए, ये सब बहुत, but it's never ending. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do one more thing. This is also part of the KISS system that you should add. It will happen. So implement what you can, what is sustainable, what is feasible for you, what you can do comfortably without breaking your bank and breaking yourself and breaking your relationships.
Also, I feel like living in Mumbai because of the air quality, there are so many things to do and still something
Absolutely.
keeps like falling apart. And when I'm at some other place where the air quality is better, it's not that difficult to manage. Like things are more at ease.
Absolutely. You know, this is a very important conversation in longevity, public health, everything. Here we are like, let's say 20 people talking about what we can do for our own self. But ideologically, if we live in a community-driven society, it shouldn't be just upon all of us individually to focus on our health. We don't have public health systems. Air quality, like you said, we don't have walkable cities, we don't have enough parks to be in or to be around. We live in smaller houses with maybe no ventilation. That is not something that ideally, in an ideal world that I imagine, should be about individuals working towards making their lives better. There is no collective public health approach that we have as of now, and it's fair, our country's hospitals are burdened, and how. We were able to manage COVID much better than many other more advanced developed countries. So it's not like nothing is happening. It's that maybe these are not focus areas. Which is why like one big thing people who are on this path prefer doing is moving to a better city with better quality of life, air quality, walkable cities. Urban planning will have to change if we have to look at public health as a cultural ecosystem.
Just checking in, has everybody who wanted smoothies have ordered the smoothies?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Because the link, do you want one?
No, not right now. Yeah, I think that's it. So you can follow me on Substack, follow me on Instagram. I don't know if you guys know what I actually do, but I do brand GTM and strategy with startups. That's my main work. And biohacking happened by way of my previous startup and because of all the courses I did as a precision nutritionist, etc. So I do take up some clients for biohacking and coaching. I only work with women, but my primary day job is brand GTM and strategy with consumer brands like Whole Truth, Super You, Human Egg, Salad, which was my own startup, all of that. So you can find me on all of these platforms and connect with me. Thank you. Thank you so much. Should we end this? Thanks guys who was here. I don't know how many people are still here.
The average.
Okay. We were recording a video. Do you all want to say hi? Okay, say hi.